Okay, guys, can I know your worst flying experience?
Let me tell you a tale of being a Muslim man traveling to America.
Thank you to Headspace for sponsoring a portion of this video, and to our patrons for supporting the channel.
I'm working on a video right now about the airline experience, and it just seems like things weren't always this bad. How do you guys feel about that?
I've always purchased the cheapest tickets imaginable. It's like a fold-out plastic chair that they've strapped to the back of the plane. That's what I paid for.
I think I've just kind of accepted my flight experience, to be honest, because for the most part I got it for free. I love credit card points because you can get free flights.
Melissa has never experienced a bad flight, and Taha, you're just like, I signed up for it.
You're asking people who have accepted the status quo of misery, like whether or not we can dream bigger. And the answer you're getting is that no. This is Stockholm Syndrome. We understand that this is the wet state of the world.
But why? Why have we let air travel become a humiliation ritual? I basically only travel for work, and this year alone has been plagued by annoying add-on fees, shrinking spaces, delays, and cancellations. It's ridiculous because a ticket is evidence of a contract, and it's outrageous for any other business to renege on a deal last minute. So why do we tolerate it for airlines? It's not just Taha and Melissa who accept this. I did a survey. Ta-da! Over 4,000 of you responded, but I was surprised to find that a vast majority were either neutral or even satisfied with their typical air travel experience. What? And we are experiencing the same thing. We have the same pain points: comfort, add-on fees, delays, security, carry-on storage, or, as I've recently discovered,
stowage?
I think the logic is that an uncomfortable experience is just a fair trade-off for a cheaper ticket. You get what you pay for. Except you don't. When it comes to delays or cancellations, it doesn't matter if you're in first class or economy. The promise on your ticket is broken, and it's being broken in a big way more often. An analysis of US airline data shows that delays longer than 3 hours have become way more common in the past 15 odd years, all while airlines have started nickel and diming every other part of the trip. So airlines are getting worse at their job, getting you from point A to point B on time, while charging $30 for a middle seat. Isn't that crazy? I gotta assume it is some form of inshtification or corporate greed, but that doesn't really help me when I'm stuck in Denver at 2 a.m. because a delayed flight made me miss my connection. It doesn't tell me what is broken or how to fix it. I have a flight in 2 weeks and I am dreading it. But I'm also tired of feeling anxious about a problem that I can't name. So let's figure out exactly what's wrong with air travel. I started my research by reading anything complaining about modern air travel. And I mean anything. It could be about luggage, seating, food, safety. I just kept pulling on these loose threads to see where they'd take me. And it turned out to be the same place. Okay, this story might make you mad. Since the invention of the airplane to the late 1970s, air travel in the US was highly regulated. Airlines couldn't really compete, the government set all the rules. And this had the interesting byproduct of making flying awesome.
Presenting an American dream with a lounge and coach and first class.
The luxurious 747 friendship room.
Plus an empty seat beside them whenever possible.
You'll enjoy lasagna over Los Angeles.
And we're putting a piano bar in every coach lounge.
For a stretch of time, airlines were in this comically extravagant arms race. The reason we got the all-stake airline to Florida is because quality of service was basically the only thing airlines could control. They couldn't compete on things like price because that was regulated. So airlines had to care about their passengers because that was the only way to get passengers. And when I say air travel is broken today, it's because this is how we used to market coach. Look at all this. I don't even know what this is. Is that an egg? No freaking middle seats, look at that. But there is a catch, because there's always a catch. This formula priced tickets to ensure the stability of air travel, make sure no airlines randomly went bankrupt. However, it didn't really care if you went bankrupt. I used this formula to compare the cost of flights today and the 1970s, and this is the face I made. Okay, airfare in 2026 for a short haul flight in economy is $80, $190 for business class. Seems good. This is just how much things cost today. But not in 1970. Boom. See that? It's even worse for long haul flights. $150 for economy, $1,200 in the 1970s, adjusting for inflation. Turns out the reason flying was awesome back in the day was because basically every ticket was business class. I mean, legally speaking, they were required to be quite close. Economy class tickets as we know them today just didn't exist. until the neoliberals attacked. In the 1970s, there was a wave of obsession with free markets and also a general desire to make travel more accessible. So, in 1978, airlines were finally allowed to compete, basically for the first time in decades. Economists believed that this would drop ticket prices, and they were right. Here's a line to prove it. It was so successful that the rest of the world followed suit, which is why I'm making this video from Canada. US airline deregulation impacted everyone, and I'll admit, ticket prices did drop. But what economists failed to account for, or maybe just forgot to mention, was just what airlines would be willing to cut to make this line possible.
Our passengers get the best of everything. You get the best of everything.
Deregulation did more than just cut the flashy stuff, like piano bars or seats wider than my shoulders. It also clawed into the functional parts of air travel that keep planes on time and customer service human. Which is the reason I'm making this video in the first place. My flight got canceled and the customer service bot just broke. Currently available.
One moment, please.
It's gonna work.
1 moment, please.
Okay.
1 moment, please. 1 moment, please.
Another time, my flight was so delayed that I got an email to apply for compensation, only to be rejected. Just nothing. You know what the cause of the delay was? Oopsie, our plane didn't work. Surely that should mean that I am eligible for compensation. I lost 4 hours of my life. How is this on me? Deregulation was supposed to make air travel more efficient. So why does it seem like nowadays it is anything but? It makes me so blind with anger that I can barely focus enough to find the answer. Luckily, I have Headspace, who sponsored this portion of the video. Now, I've been using their mindfulness tools for a few years now, and while they have travel-specific support, I find their Ease Stress in Uncertain Times collection helps me a lot, especially this one right here. And I might need it right now, because I'm trying to pack for my trip next week, which I know seems early, except for the fact that it's 7 days long, and it's really hard to fit 7 days of clothes into a carry-on! And you might be wondering, why a carry-on? It's because deregulation unbundled everything that comes with the ticket, and now a checked bag costs $50! And I can't justify $50 to fit like another sweater. It should fit in here. Let me show you how Headspace works. I find the program, resource, or meditation that suits my needs. Select Dora, that's my goat, and then hit play.
I know in this moment, you may not think that anger can be helpful.
Even though I can do this by myself, it's hard, especially when I'm at my worst. I feel better knowing that when I'm on the brink of a crash out, packing at home, waiting in line at security, or feeling claustrophobic on a plane, I can pop in some headphones to keep calm in real time so my trip doesn't get ruined before I even arrive.
Slowly and gently opening your eyes.
If you ever need help resetting, you can try Headspace entirely for free for 60 days by clicking the link in the description or scanning this QR code. That's 2 months of free access, which is longer than the 2-week trial they offer on their website. Thank you, Headspace, for sponsoring that portion of the video. Now, I understand how deregulation led to this. It made flying cheaper by making every amenity optional. I'd argue a bag isn't an amenity, but I guess I'm wrong. But what I still don't understand is how deregulation could lead to longer flight delays. Shouldn't it have made flying more efficient?
When you have that type of rush environment in which you're trying to either maximize revenue or minimize cost, things fall by the wayside.
This is John Gradek, and this is John Gradek's LinkedIn. He's currently a faculty lecturer at McGill in aviation management, but he has actually been a part of the industry before US deregulation. Check it out, 1975, and he saw its effects firsthand.
I ran a scheduling department at Air Canada. I was religiously told by my boss and by my boss's boss and by everybody, we need backup airplanes because stuff is going to hit the fan. And I would typically have 3 or 4 backups a day. That whole mentality, that whole approach is gone.
Where did that buffer go?
The financial guys basically chewed it all up in terms of their expectations for the business. Everybody's in that same mindset now, whether it's airlines, whether it's airports, whether it's air traffic control, whether it's TSA, we're all saying, maximize the use of the asset. If there's anything idle, pull it out.
So deregulation didn't just cut the baseline comfort of flying, it also cut out all of the breathing room. This conversation with John taught me that air travel is a logistical nightmare. Airlines used to try and protect us from that chaos, but now they don't. Check this out. In both 2022 and 2023, over 60% of 3-hour or longer domestic flight delays were caused by factors airlines could control. They're just not controlling it. And I'm gonna show you how. Let's start with the plane itself. That is not an airplane. Since deregulation, airlines cut back on legroom to sell more seats, but extra passengers increase the risk of delay as they navigate aisle congestion and limited stowage space. Airlines also cut back on staffing. Crews are pushed to their legal limits, and there literally aren't enough mechanics to maintain planes in a timely manner. When these people are overbooked and delayed, so are you. Finally, airlines cut back on direct routes. Airlines will add layovers at certain airports in order to group passengers heading to the same destination. This is generally more efficient, but it amplifies the fragility of this system. These hubs get more traffic, which increases the risk of delays, which can knock on to other flights, especially when extreme weather or an accident shuts a hub down. Even if you don't think this system is broken, you have to admit that it is always on the brink of a breakdown, because that is by design. Airlines have cut everything they can for the sake of competition, from comfort and reliability to, apparently, their own profits.
$7.90 US per passenger. That's the money you make.
Like $7.90?
$7.
$7?
Hearing how airlines are barely making a profit was kind of surprising, but also great news. Because remember why I'm making this video. I didn't understand why airlines have started nickel and diming us while their quality of service has just declined in every way. I found it greedy and hypocritical and intolerable, and I didn't understand how a majority of you are just like okay with it. I know how airlines have made massive cuts to their service in order to make tickets more affordable than they've basically ever been, and maybe more affordable than they should be. That would explain why they're barely breaking even and why they've started nickel and diming. They're acting broke because they are broke to my benefit. I wouldn't just be fine with that. I'd be satisfied. But then Taha had to ask a good question.
I mean, how much does the CEO of an airline company make?
This sent us down a rabbit hole of conflicting stories. On one hand, we found airlines pitting thin margins against fair wages, which as we know leads to worse service and reliability. But on the other hand, we found airlines giving their CEOs huge bonuses and handing billions over to shareholders through stock buybacks. And I don't know if it's just us, but that math didn't make sense.
I'm stressed out now because I'm not getting on a broke guy's plane. Oh, it's delayed for safety reasons. Have you ever considered your financial safety?
Exactly. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm crazy. Where is the money coming from if they're so broke?
Can you look into their financial records and just see where the money's going? And where it's coming from?
So I did that. I'm looking through the last 10 years of financial records for the 4 biggest US airlines. That is fortunately a very easy thing to do because of SEC regulations, and you can search through the SEC records thanks to a service they called Edgar. I think that making stupid acronyms for a silly little name is the most wonderful thing humans do. Anyway, the reason why I'm just looking at US airlines is 1, it's easier. Just consistent financial records, but also because they've kind of been the canary in the coal mine for the rest of this story. And I'm hoping that these documents are gonna tell me whether airlines are actually broke or if they're just pretending somehow. Like maybe there's an accounting trick, but if they're actually broke, then I'm gonna be getting on my flight in a few days very satisfied for all of the reasons I said before. I'm getting a good deal off their poor financial decisions. However, if they're lying, I think I'm gonna be even angrier than when I started this video. Because it'll be a righteous anger, because it's not just like anxiety, like I don't know what's going on. I will know what's going on. I know who my op is. Because if airlines really are just always rich, that would mean we could get better service, better wages for workers, better everything. But airlines don't want that because they're gonna prioritize shareholder value over passengers. I do kind of have a bad feeling that that is gonna be the answer, but hey, maybe not. Anyway, let's look through my boy Edgar. I spent about 2 days reviewing these reports. I don't know what stressed me out more. The corpos speak while covering tragedies? Dude, negative impact. That's crazy, right? That's evil. Or how much I learned about accounting standards. I feel personally victimized by ASC 606. But at the end of it all, I think I found an answer. Uh-oh, there's nuance. Let me explain. The success of the air travel industry is tied to the overall economy, which is cyclical. There are good times where the fuel is cheap and people are traveling, but there are also bad times that leave airlines struggling with rising cost and falling demand. These bad times happen shockingly often. The oil shocks, the Gulf War, 9/11, the Great Recession, the pandemic, the Iran War. There's one happening while I'm making this video, but I bought my flight a while ago, so we're good. Anyway, I cannot blame airlines for going through bad times. but I can blame them for what they choose to do during the good times. Take the stretch between 2014 and 2019. Travel demand was high and airlines were basically printing money thanks to the introduction of premium travel credit cards. Not only were credit card companies paying airlines to advertise, they were also pre-purchasing billions of dollars worth of points to give to their customers as a perk for spending with their card. These deals brought in boatloads of cash, which airlines could have used to pay better wages or save for a rainy day, but instead, they gave it to shareholders and CEOs through these buybacks and bonuses. This short-sightedness makes me so angry, and this very aptly titled book argues that airlines should be regulated to save more responsibly. But here's where the nuance kicks in. I've also benefited from this short-sightedness, and you probably have too. Another reason why rainy days hit airlines so hard is because tickets are priced irresponsibly low. Even in the good times, airlines are mainly profitable because of their side gigs like credit cards, not passengers. For the big four, it's mostly been break even. If airlines really wanted to stabilize their business, they do what they did under regulation and charge more for tickets, which might just be happening.
Airlines are really doubling down on their premium cabins. And actually, this is something that I've looked at in my reporting that I'm really fascinated about.
This is Zach Wichter, a consumer travel reporter writing the cruising altitude column for USA Today.
Since 2020, we've seen more leisure travelers who are willing to pay extra money to fly in a premium seat. And because business travel never fully recovered in the wake of the pandemic, airlines are relying even more heavily than ever before on leisure travelers who are willing to spend that extra. I still wonder if there's a serious economic disruption, if that's the right strategy. I was once kind of in this premium leisure category of travelers and can no longer afford to be that person. So that's why it's a trend that I'm really keeping my eyes open for, because I feel like I can't be alone.
My view is that airfares are going to have to double, if not triple, to recognize the fact that we have an infrastructure shortage, that aviation, air travel is no longer going to be for you and I.
When deregulation allowed airlines to compete for profits, it was largely to our benefit. They wanted to maximize passengers, so they cut costs to get us on board. And in the process, we got to see the world.
The cost of air travel has been extremely beneficial to society in general. You can go anywhere you want in the world and get you there in 24 hours. Or it's going to take you a couple more days because of all the delays and cancellations and everything else along the way. But the world is open.
I made this video because I wanted to understand how people tolerate air travel's flaws before my flight tomorrow. And I think I succeeded. Learning about the exact trade-off between lower prices and discomfort and delays has genuinely turned my anger into acceptance. But it's just weird because in the process, I also learned that this acceptance I have might be for a situation that won't exist for much longer. With demand rapidly outpacing supply, airlines aren't as worried about filling seats anymore, and they're pricing their tickets to match. It is a logical, if not responsible, choice in a world where airlines need to turn a profit. But I can't stop wondering, why do we need to live in that world? It's currently like 7:30ish. My flight's around 9:30ish. I'm here around 2 hours early, so we're on schedule. Now I need to get through security, I guess? At the airport, I was struck by the contrast between all of the people ready to fly and the credit card ads reminding me that wasn't enough anymore. It is really funny seeing all of the credit card ads, now knowing what I know. There's just not enough shareholder value in passengers alone. So airlines sell us credit cards and terrible food and squeeze us in like sardines. But we tolerate it because we know the real value of air travel isn't for shareholders. It's for us. What we'll see, who we'll see. How badly did you mess up?
I took the train here and then took the train back. I was rearranging my home screen apps.
I don't think that we should lose this miracle because of something as mundane as money. We don't expect sidewalks or roads to turn a profit. Even public transit can make a loss because of what the rest of us gain. A world that values wonder and connection. A world that serves more than just shareholders. A world that I want to live in. Yes, yeah. Thank you so much for watching that video. I did not expect it to end up where it did. If you want to build a better world, there's obviously legislation, but the direct action that you can do is use your passenger rights. I spoke to a lot of people and they don't know they have them, and if they do have them, they don't use it because it's like a bit of a chore. But please use your rights, even if it is annoying and frustrating. I found this website, I'll link to it in the description. It does this global search of your rights and the type of compensation you might be entitled to depending on the type of disruption. Use your rights or lose them. If you're interested in learning more about how airlines have become weirdly reliant on credit cards, we've got a little essay coming up in our latest newsletter that you could subscribe to, and you'll also get extended interviews with our experts. And if you want to try Headspace entirely for free for 60 days, you can scan this QR code or click the first link in the description. I hope you liked the video. Safe travels.